Welcome to the third video of our force series. In this video, we're going to go over how to add the force choke. So if I walk up to these players and hold down a button on my keyboard, I can choke players. And if I let go, they'll stop getting choked. So I have full control over it. And of course, all of these, the damage per second is all editable and whatnot. So if you want the source files, check out the link in the description to go to our website. And if you want any help, check out our Discord server. Before we write the code, let's first do the animations. So come up to your avatar tab and open up the animation editor. And if you've just watched the previous video, it's going to open up to the last animation. So you can just click on the three dots and then click Create New. And then we can name this Force Choking. And this will be the animation that plays when the player is holding up the player in the air. So the person doing the choking. So we'll want to lift this arm up and maybe position it slightly in the air like this. Click this icon here, the play button with the circle around it. This will make sure our animation loops forever until we tell it to stop. Come up to our three dots and set the animation priority once again to Action 3. And then we want to export this, so publish to ROBLOX. Select your group and submit. Copy the ID once again. And in our animations folder, we can add a new animation. Paste in our ID. And we can name this Force Choking. And we're going to come back to our animation editor here, so click Continue. Three dots, Create New, and we'll name this Force Choked. So this will be what happens when the player is actually being choked. So they're going to put their hands around their neck as they get lifted up into the air. So we can bring in our arms. Now the animations that you create are going to be different than mine. But you can just do whatever looks good. 4, 3, 4. And then we'll bring the arms up. I think it's a bit high, so we'll bring the arms down a little bit. 1, 2. All right, and then maybe the heads lean back like this, body a little bit back, and while they're in the air, their legs will be extended slightly or sort of spread apart a little bit, with the knees back slightly. There we go. So we can set that to loop as well. Set the animation priority to Action 3. Publish to ROBLOX. Once again, pick the group. Submit, copy the ID. In our animations folder, we'll make a new animation. Force Choked, paste in the animation ID. All right, so we can close out our animation editor and move this guy back over to his friends. And I'm just going to close out our existing scripts. And what we'll do now is we'll create a new script in our powers folder. So let's duplicate what we have for push, and we'll name it choke. Open that up. And let's do the same thing we did last time where we renamed force push, but this time we'll do force choke. So double click on where it says force push anywhere in your script, and then hit Control H to open up the replace menu in the top right, and write in force choke to replace it with. We can get rid of this print. We don't need that print anymore. And what we'll do now is we're going to edit this existing code and we're going to turn it into a force choke. Okay, so first of all, what we want to do is we want our character to have the choking animation while we hold up a player. So rather than force activate here, what we'll do is we'll name this Force Choking. And rather than doing local track equals, we'll do self.track equals. And we'll replace this if statement with self.track. And then in our stop, what we'll do, we'll say if self.track, then self.track stop. So when we start, we're going to play the animation, and then when we stop, we'll stop the animation. So let's test this and see what happens. So if I hit C, actually, yeah, there's one more thing we have to change, because right now we're calling on finish right away. So let's actually remove this on finish line so that it doesn't finish right after it starts, so that we can actually see our animation. So when we hold down C, we lift our arm up into the air. And when we let go of C, okay, it looks like when we let go of C, nothing's happening. So let's go back to our force server script and see if we implemented that. Okay, yeah, so we didn't implement that functionality. So in our force event on server event, we are only listening for the start request type. But if we go back to our force client, we're also sending the stop event. So we have to implement the stop behavior. So we can say else if request type equals stop, then local controller equal active controllers player power name. If not controller, and return. So if the player doesn't actively have that force power active, just return. If they do have it, controller stop, active controllers player power name equal nil. All right, so let's test this out. When I hold down C, my arm lifts up. When I let go of C, it comes down, and I can continuously keep doing this. Now, if we walk up to our players, well, what's going to happen is we're going to push them because we copied the force push code. So we need to edit this to instead lift them up into a force choke. So we'll come back to our choke server script. And in here, we'll just remove all of that. So we still want to have all the other checks to see if they're in front of the player, but within the if statement here, we want to do something different. So what we can do here is we can say local choking animation equals get animation track force choked enemy character. If choking animation, then choking animation play. Looks like I forgot a parenthesis here. All right, so now when our player gets choked, we'll test this out. They should put their arms around their neck. So I click C, and so all of these players here in front of us are now choking. Now, when I let go of C, the animation doesn't stop, so we have to actually implement a cleanup function for this. So up here in start, in our constructor, we can say self.active characters equals empty table. Then here we can do table. We can do self.active characters equals self.active characters square brackets enemy character equals parenthesis animation equals choking animation. And then in our stop, what we can do here is we can do for info in self.active characters do info.animation stop. And we actually have to check here if info.animation, then we want to stop, because it's possible that our animation doesn't exist. So now we have a table of all of our characters that are getting choked. What we want to do here is we want to make sure that the character isn't actively in our table. So here we can say if self.activeCharacters enemy character, then continue. If we're already choking them, we don't want to run more code. Now, really, this shouldn't happen. This is more just a fail-safe, so we don't get any weird duplication happening in case some weird glitch happens. And then inside the stop here, we can do self.activeCharacters equals empty table. So let's test this out. If we hold down C, all of these characters now put their hands around their neck, and when we let go, they stop. Now, their arms look kind of funny. If these were real characters, they would fix themselves, but it's fine for this. When we convert the system to work with real players, it won't do that. So back into our choke script here, what we can do now is we can add in a local damage per second equals 40. And then we can say local, actually no, we don't want that. We can just say damage per second equals 40. And then in our on update, we're going to get something called a delta time here. But first we have to set this up. So in our force server script at the very top here, let's import run service equals game get service run service. And at the very bottom of our script, we'll do run service.stepped connect function underscore dt. Now with stepped, we get two parameters here. We get like the total time the game has been running and the time since the last frame. We only want the time since the last frame. We don't care about the total time, so we can just do an underscore there. And then we can do dt to get the time since the last frame. And then we can loop through all of the current controllers. So we can do here local player controllers and active controllers, do for controller in player controller, do player controllers. So remember here, we set up this system, active controllers. The key is the player. The value is all of their controllers. And then within that, we have another dictionary where the key is the name of the power and the value is the controller. We can do here a controller on update and pass in dt. Now in our choke, now we can do for character in self.active characters, do local humanoid equals character, find first child, humanoid. If not humanoid, then continue. Humanoid.health minus equal, we have dt here, so we can do damage per second times dt. So with damage per second times dt is the time since the last frame. So when we multiply that by our damage per second, it ends up working itself out to be, over the course of a second, it ends up being the right value, but we get to see the damage continuously decreasing. So if we test this out, click play here, and walk up to our dummies, and hold down C, we'll see their health start to decrease, but if I let go of C, it stops decreasing. If I continue, they all die. So now we have a force choke that actually kills them, but now we want to do one last thing where we lift them up into the air. So go back into our choke. We can create a new tween, local tween equals tween service, create. We have to actually import tween service, get service, tween service. And then here for our tween, we can do enemy root part, tween info dot new 2. And then we can set the position to be the enemy root part dot position plus vector 3 dot new 050. We're going to pass in the tween to our cleanup table, and we're going to run our tween. So we can do tween play. And so basically this is just going to elevate our character over the course of 2 seconds, 5 studs above their current position. And then in our stop here, where we do, we have info.animation stop. Now we can do info.tween stop. Cancel. And we don't need to check to see if it exists because we know for sure it will because we create it. With the animation, we're not sure because the humanoid also needs to exist. All right, so let's test this out. Walk up to our characters, hold down C, they float up into the air, and they've reset. So now we have our force push, our force pulling, and we also have our force choke. All right, so in the next week's videos, what we'll do is we'll set up a UI that shows you how much force power you have. We'll make sure that you have a finite amount of force power, so you can't just infinitely use your force powers. And then we'll also set up group and user permissions so that not everybody has access, and then we can also choose which players have access to which force powers. If you want the assets for this video, check out the link in the description. And if you have any questions, check out our Discord server, which can also be found in the description. I hope to see you all in the next video.